A hero is someone with powers beyond human limits. The chapter opened with a bald, muscular man wearing a mask standing in front of another man dressed in a biker suit with a black helmet. The bald man prepared to throw a punch while the biker raised his hand and released flames. A fireball shot forward and struck the giant man. The biker walked out of the fight as bystanders cheered. He lifted his visor, showing the lower half of his face. The whole scene was being streamed on a phone. Inside a restaurant, a boy and a girl drank soju while watching the broadcast. The girl said the biker defeated the huge villain with one blow. The boy replied that it was because the biker was a hero. Looking closer at the screen, the boy glanced at his red-headed friend across the table, Kim Sunwoo. He remarked that the hero looked just like him. Kim Sunwoo scoffed, saying it was ridiculous since he could barely move. The boy laughed and agreed. A notification popped up on Kim Sunwoo's phone. He got up, saying he was going to the bathroom. While walking, he watched the news about the hero suddenly disappearing after saving the citizens. He entered the bathroom, locked the door, and called out. The biker hero appeared before him. Kim Sunwoo complained, telling him not to wear the helmet inside or they would get in trouble. The hero told him to stop fussing, saying what was inside the helmet was hotter. He removed it, revealing a face identical to Kim Sunwoo's. The hero smirked, saying nothing was more eye-catching than a mysterious hero suddenly revealing his face. It was the real Kim Sunwoo. He told the imposter Lee Ju-won to change back to his real form, adding that seeing him with his face was creepy. Lee Ju-won transformed, turning from the red-haired Sunwoo to a dark-haired boy with blue eyes. Sunwoo looked at him in disgust and asked how he could copy someone's appearance so easily. Before Ju-won could answer, Sunwoo grabbed his face and demanded to know if he had taken the girls away. Ju-won said he hadn't, adding that it wasn't his first time doing this job. Sunwoo left the biker suit and helmet behind, ordering Ju-won to iron his suit well. When Sunwoo left, Ju-won muttered, wondering whether Kim Sunwoo was a hero or just a punk. Sunwoo had powers, but having powers alone didn't make someone a hero. He worked as a stand-in, a doppelganger for heroes. About 20 years ago, people with powers began appearing on Earth. The world fell into chaos. Police tried to protect civilians, but bullets bounced off villains. They stood no chance. Blood filled the streets. To restore order, the government created a new law. Powered people who disobeyed it became villains, and those who stopped them became heroes. Inside the villain's headquarters, the Union leader Nemesis sat with 6 others. They laughed at the hero-villain law and mocked the idea of police stopping them. Nemesis claimed no one truly believed in heroes. At that moment, a man in a hero's suit and cape burst through the windows. The villains jeered, mocking him for wearing tights. The man ignored them, calling out Nemesis by name. He declared that under the hero-villain law, Nemesis would be punished. Nemesis changed form, growing horns, pointed ears, sharp teeth, and long hair. He told the man before him to know his place. Nemesis charged forward, but the hero gathered power into his fist and struck with one blow, sending Nemesis flying across the room. Stunned, Nemesis asked who he was. The man replied that he was Justice, a hero. From then on, Justice became the most popular hero and the world of heroes opened up. Lee Ju-won, with his power to copy appearances, could not fight villains directly. He entered his room, complaining that some heroes lived freely while he could not. Looking at his schedule, he told himself at least he had a way to use his ability, even if it was illegal. He counted the money in his envelope, saying all heroes did it for money anyway. Lying in bed, he muttered that he would work until 50, then retire. His thoughts were broken by knocking at the door. It was late, and he wondered who it was. The knocking continued. He opened the door and was shocked to see Justice standing there. Justice asked if he was Lee Ju-won. He walked inside and said Lee Ju-won was illegally acting as heroes in their normal lives. Ju-won thought he would be arrested, but instead Justice said he wanted to hire him as his normal life substitute. Ju-won, surprised, asked why. Justice replied that he should not ask personal questions. He opened a briefcase full of documents Ju-won would need. Looking through them, Ju-won noticed there was no photo. Justice then removed his mask, revealing his face. Ju-won asked when he should start. Justice answered, tomorrow. He handed Ju-won a card with an address, then disappeared, leaving Ju-won confused. The next day, Ju-won stood before a massive building, checking the card to confirm the address. Inside, he waited for the elevator, thinking how opposite he was from Justice. Reaching the penthouse, he saw Justice sitting on the couch with his back turned. Ju-won approached, ready to show a confidentiality clause, but froze when he saw Justice's bloody body. He wondered if Justice was dead and who could have killed the top hero. He reached to check, but the moment he touched the body, he was electrocuted. A burst of light exploded, knocking them both to the floor. Ju-won looked at his hand, shocked to see part of it had changed. He guessed the light had released his ability. Fearing trouble, he ran from the scene, planning to report the incident to the Heroes Association. Outside, he bumped into someone. Apologizing, he was surprised to see it was Kim Sunwoo. Relieved, Ju-won was about to ask for help, but Sunwoo noticed his hand, which had now returned to normal. Instead, Sunwoo complained about his coffee-stained shirt and demanded Ju-won pay for dry cleaning. Suddenly, a force struck Sunwoo. A villain with a cape and many tentacles appeared. Ju-won saw the villain clearly and realized he was not the one who killed Justice, as his attacks were tentacle-based. Sunwoo grew enraged and attacked with flames. The villain dodged and charged at him. Ju-won froze in shock but managed to cut off the villain's tentacles before the attack landed. Kim Sunwoo rushed at the villain, but the man only smirked. Tentacles wrapped around Sunwoo, squeezing tighter. The villain mocked him for thinking he had only 4 tentacles. People screamed as the hero was lifted into the air. Lee Ju-won could not believe Sunwoo was caught so easily. The villain crushed him until he went limp and dropped him to the ground. People panicked as the villain moved toward nearby onlookers. Ju-won hid, thinking another hero would show up. He saw a poster of justice while people cried, waiting for him to appear. Juin muttered that they would die waiting for a hero who would never come. Then he heard a little girl sobbing in a corner. The villain noticed her. Juin shouted for the child to run. Tentacles reached for her. Without thinking, Juin rushed forward. His hand lit up as he grabbed the tentacle. The villain stared in disbelief. Juin had transformed into Justice. He felt his strength surge. He ripped the tentacle apart with ease. The sudden appearance of Justice shocked the villain. Facing him, Juin realized his power was overflowing. Unsure if he could handle it, he still stood ready. The villain regenerated his limbs and attacked. To Juin, the tentacles were too slow. He dodged them easily and appeared right in front of the villain. He delivered a punch, flattening the villain's face. Then he caught another tentacle, spun the villain around, and threw him into the wall. Juin was stunned by his own power. Even a light push had sent the villain flying. He realized if he did not restrain himself, it could be dangerous. The villain rose again, preparing to attack, but Juin suddenly felt his strength fading. His transformation was slipping. As the villain closed in, another attack struck from behind. A pink-haired girl appeared, saying she had arrived at the right time. She rushed to Justice, praising his sharp hearing and teamwork in drawing the villain's attention. Juin, confused but relieved, stayed silent. The villain stood again. The girl's eyes lit up and she blasted him with flames, furious that he dared oppose Justice. When she turned back, Justice was gone. She pouted, upset that she could not get his autograph. A woman in a black cloak arrived and ordered the pink-haired girl to help the injured. The girl obeyed. The cloaked woman whispered to herself, surprised that Justice was still alive. She noticed Juin slipping away but did not stop him. Back home, Juin shredded the documents Justice had given him. His hand grew numb from the effort. He stuffed the scraps into a trash bag and carried it outside. He wondered who had killed Justice, the #1 hero. That meant someone even stronger existed. He also worried about failing to transform earlier and whether anyone had seen him. A voice answered that someone had. Startled, he searched for it. The voice said he must be thorough since he already shredded the evidence. He kept looking, but the voice revealed it was below him. He stumbled back as the cloaked woman rose from the ground. Dark hands reached up and tore open the trash bag, spilling the shredded papers. She cast a skill that summoned the scraps back together, restoring the documents whole. Now able to clearly see the contract, the woman asked Li Juin if he had seen Justice dead. She warned that his knowledge would put her in a difficult situation. Shadows attacked, forcing Juin back. He realized she was determined to kill him and transformed into Justice. He thought if she was the one who killed Justice, there was no reason to hold back. The woman wielded shadows to assail him. Juin noticed they were harder to handle than tentacles, but followed a similar attack style. He dodged and moved closer, but the strange symptom returned. His transformation faltered. Shadows reached him. The woman paused, realizing, and mocked him as an imitation without originality, calling him uninspiring. Enraged, Juin struck the ground with his left arm, lifting stone as a shield. She broke it with ease, but Juin used the opening to throw a punch. She dodged, and he nearly hit her. Suddenly, his body froze. The woman explained he was trapped in her domain. Shadows restrained and strangled him, lifting him into the air. He gasped for breath until she released him with a snap of her fingers. Falling to the ground, Juin wondered why she let him go. She asked if he would continue his actions not as a doppelganger but as Justice's substitute. Holding his face, she told him that if word spread of Justice's death, panic would follow. She needed time and he could buy it. Juin demanded to know who she was. She introduced herself as Chrome, a hero under Justice's command. Doubting her claim, Juin checked the documents and confirmed her name. Chrome said she only wanted to scare him into silence. Then she offered him a contract. If he agreed to be Justice's substitute, he would receive a monthly payment of 100 million. Stunned, Juin asked how he could pull it off and what would happen if he was caught. Chrome promised to help cover for him. When he remained uncertain, she warned that if news spread, villains would rise against heroes. With Justice gone, war would break out and innocent lives would suffer. Juin trembled at the thought. Justice's presence had kept order. The deaths of innocents weighed on him. Chrome assumed her request was too much and prepared to leave, telling him only to keep Justice's death secret. As she turned away, Juin called out. He said he had been calculating and that 100 million was not enough for such work. He demanded 200 million instead. Chrome smiled, telling him not to go back on his word. A week later, Juin sat exhausted, memorizing details about Justice. Chrome waited outside and drove him in a car. On the way, Juin asked why they were hiding Justice's death from the heroes, especially higher authorities. Chrome said that was how it should be, but also why it could never happen. Confused, Juin followed as they arrived at a logistics delivery center.